From Vermont Public, this is The Frequency. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. It's Friday, April 11th, and here are today's headlines. 2 Nicaraguan students at Champlain Valley Union High School are being forced to leave the United States. Late last month, the Department of Homeland Security terminated an immigration program that had allowed about 500,000 people from Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, and Venezuela to enter the country legally. CVU Superintendent Adam Bunting says the departure of his students spotlights the effects of federal immigration policies.
These federal policies are affecting our kids, and I think people need to be aware of that because they don't know.
Bunting says the students are well-loved members of the school community, and he says their departure is a blow to classmates and staff. A psychiatric unit for teenagers opened at Dartmouth Hitchcock Medical Center in Lebanon this week. It has 6 beds and is the only place in the region where young people ages 12 to 17 can get inpatient mental health care in a general hospital. The unit aims to cut down on the number of young people in mental health crisis waiting in an emergency room for a hospital bed. It was just renovated, says Dr. Will Tari, the chair of psychiatry at the hospital.
It's a beautiful unit. It's very light. There's air coming in. The walls are decorated nicely. There's a facility for activities.
The hospital also recently expanded its adult psychiatric unit to 24 beds and can now care for patients who are involuntarily admitted. Economic officials on both sides of the border say tariffs have started to affect Vermont's business relationship with Canada. At a hearing in Montpelier this week, Secretary of Commerce Lindsay Curley said tariffs on Canadian aluminum and steel will have direct impacts on Vermont companies. And while her agency is working to help businesses navigate the new landscape, she told lawmakers there's no way to insulate Vermont against broader trade policy.
I don't want to sugarcoat this. There is no magic or smoking gun, I guess I should say right now, that it has come to me.
Canada is Vermont's largest trading partner. A recent survey of Canadian businesses found that their faith in the U.S. as a reliable trading partner is at an all-time low. Coming up, one of the claims to fame for South Royalton, Vermont is that it's home to Vermont's only law school. But rumors that the Vermont Law and Graduate School might relocate prompted reporter Sabine Pooks to investigate whether there's any truth to the rumblings. And we'll find out what she learned after this. South Royalton looks a lot like other Vermont towns. The Riverside Village has a sprawling town green bordered by a church and a strip of locally owned businesses. But South Royalton also has something that no other Vermont town has, a law school. And the 400 residential students who go to that law school, they have a big footprint in town. One listener wrote into Brave Little State, Vermont Public's listener-powered journalism show, to ask about a rumor she's heard her whole life, that Vermont Law and Graduate School and all those students might pick up and move. She wants to know, is it true? Reporter Sabine Pooks takes it from there.
Tess Mix spent her childhood just up Route 110 from South Royalton in neighboring Tunbridge, and she recently moved back home. The law school is basically her neighbor.
Yeah, I go to their gym. I donated blood today at the law school.
But for as long as she can remember, there's been this sort of black cloud hanging overhead. She says the law school's presence in town has felt tenuous.
Everybody's scared, I think, of maybe finding out that maybe the law school is actually truly going to actually move up to Burlington, even though they've been saying this since I was a kid. Like this conversation that happens every few years has been happening as long as I can remember.
Moving the law school to Burlington. It's a rumor Tess has heard basically her whole life.
That's the thing. It's like constantly like, well, it's cyclical. Like every few years, someone's like,
Tess says her mom, who's been in the area since the law school started, she's been hearing these rumors for more than 50 years. So she asked.
My question is, does South Royalton and the surrounding towns actually have to worry about the Vermont Law School leaving, or is it just a recurring rumor?
Vermont's only law school has been based in South Royalton since it started in the 1970s. It churns out lawyers who stay in Vermont to work. 3 of the 5 Supreme Court justices right now are graduates of the law school. And here in tiny South Royalton, law school students are everywhere. On weekday mornings, groups of students huddle over their laptops at the 2 coffee shops in town. They staff the legal clinic, get drinks at local bars, and host radio shows at night. You can even find them at the Union Arena in Woodstock, where the school's hockey team attracts a lively crowd. Tess Mix says it's great to have these kids around.
And I can't believe I'm saying kids. I used to think they looked so much older than me, but they're not anymore. It's just great. It's a great thing to have the school here. It adds a lot of just energy to the community.
Energy and money. Law students rent a lot of the homes in town and patronize local businesses. That's something Tess has been thinking about. She wants to open a restaurant right on the town green.
I have a dream of reopening the pub that I went to as a kid. But yeah, I think that honestly, again, like the fear goes to if the law school wasn't here, would it be financially viable?
I want to ask the question that this question asker had about whether the law school would ever move to a place like Burlington, would ever sort of join up with UVM, for example. Right. What do you say to that?
The easy answer is no. No.
This is Rod Smola.
And I'm the president of Vermont Law and Graduate School.
Rod has been president since 2022, and he's stepping down this summer to focus on teaching. But just before Rod became president, the law school was considering moving to Burlington. Like other law schools around the country, its enrollment was low and finances were shaky. The school's board of trustees said it was considering a bunch of possibilities to right the ship, including moving the campus to Burlington to be closer to hotels and the airport. Rod says they looked into it and decided it just didn't make sense. They already had the property in South Royalton and had invested a lot into it. And Rod says the rural location is actually a draw for a lot of people.
There's simply no good reason to move, and it would be an enormous headache, very difficult.
Instead of moving, the school did a big rebrand. In 2022, the same year Rod became president, it changed its name from Vermont Law School to Vermont Law and Graduate School. With help from an anonymous $8 million donation, it opened up other graduate programs so students could get master's degrees in things like public policy and restorative justice, not just JDs.
And that's giving us a new stream of enrollment.
And the school amped up its online offerings so students can get law and master's degrees remotely. And that's proven popular, according to Rod. In other words,
we're here to stay, we're stable, we're not moving.
It sounds like this is sort of a rumor that comes up every couple of years. How can you kind of quantify?
I don't know. I'm hoping this interview does the trick. So I'll still get the questions. Somebody comes up to me, in a wine bar and says, when are you moving to Burlington? So you all send the word out. We're not moving. We're here. We love it here.
Rod says they're here to stay. As for the rumors, well, if the past is any indication, they might be here to stay too. For Vermont Public, I'm Sabine Pooks.
That was an excerpt from the most recent episode of our podcast, Brave Little State. Find the full episode in your favorite podcast app or just go to bravelittlestate.org. And now we turn to our weekly check on news from the world of sports. It's always tough to get a handle on where Major League Baseball teams are headed this early in the season, and that is especially true of the 2025 Boston Red Sox. What to make of the club's hot start on opening day, followed by a 4-game losing skid, then a stretch in which they won 4 in a row, only to get back on the downslide by dropping 3 consecutive games to the division rival Toronto Blue Jays this week. That's a roller coaster track for sure, and tough to sustain without getting a little queasy over a 162-game span. Certainly, manager Alex Cora would like to see a little more stability and consistency in his charges as the season progresses. What we do know so far is that rookie Christian Campbell looks like a solid option for second base this year. The Red Sox have a bona fide starting pitcher ace in Garrett Crochet, and Alex Bregman's stellar career numbers hitting at Fenway Park may only improve now that he's playing for the Red Sox instead of against them. Add to that a bullpen that already looks more reliable than last year's with the addition of Aroldis Chapman and the pending return of Liam Hendricks, and I'm still bullish on Boston's chances this year, despite the penchant for winning and losing in nearly equal chunks in the early going. Plus, those 3 losses to the Blue Jays occurred in games so cold they made Fenway Park look more like Fenway Parka, with fans shivering under heavy coats, blankets, and winter hats. One thing that seems true every year with the Red Sox is that the bats tend to heat up along with the weather. And I expect some of the players off to chilly starts now, like first baseman Tristan Casas and shortstop Trevor Story, will get hotter than a Carolina Reaper chili pepper when folks at Fenway shed their long coats for short sleeves. If the team can stay within striking distance of the competition, making up arguably the toughest division in the American League, I do think they'll be in the playoff conversation come September. One of those tough competitors, of course, is the New York Yankees, just about neck and neck with the Blue Jays for first place after their own up-and-down start to the year. The Yankee lineup is still a pitcher's nightmare, even with the loss of slugger Juan Soto to the New York Mets, and if the starting rotation can weather the injury to ace Garrett Cole, there's no reason to think they won't be postseason bound as a wild card entry at the very least. In the National League, the Mets are vying with the Philadelphia Phillies to be the darlings of the NL East. And out west, there's a logjam for first place with the highest payroll in the majors' LA Dodgers, not even owning the division lead at the moment. They're sitting just behind the hot out-of-the-gate San Diego Padres and the surprise of the early going so far, the San Francisco Giants, who won 8 of their first 9 games. As the baseball season ramps up, the NHL's regular season winds down. The biggest news, other than postseason wildcard berths being nearly set, was the shattering of a record once thought unbreakable: Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal-scoring mark. The Great One had his total of 894 career goals surpassed by the Great Eight, a reference to the jersey number worn by Alex Ovechkin of the Washington Capitals, who topped Gretzky with career goal number 895, scored against the New York Islanders last Sunday. It took Ovechkin 20 years to set the new record, and the now 39-year-old future Hall of Famer can concentrate on trying to win his second career Stanley Cup with a Capitals team that heads into the playoffs as the top seed in the Eastern Conference. And they could be looking at a first-round matchup against one of the most surprising teams this season, the Montreal Canadiens. Spending the bulk of the year mired near the bottom of the Atlantic Division, the New York Yankees of hockey were in danger of missing the playoffs for what would have been a record 5th year in a row, but they're now a virtual lock to make it to the postseason. The team, coached by former UVM star Martin St. Louis, turned it up after the Four Nations tournament in February, and given their historical penchant for winning when it matters most, could be spoiling for a round 1 upset even against a team as strong as Washington. In the NBA this week, the New York Knicks nearly pulled off their first win of the season against the Boston Celtics, but for a bad decision not to foul superstar Jason Tatum in a game they led by 2 points with just 2 seconds left in regulation. Instead, they allowed Tatum to get off a shot, and it was a game-winning three-pointer that locks up the second seed in the East for the defending champs as they get ready for the playoffs. The women's NCAA basketball final was a coronation for the UConn Huskies as the greatest women's team in college history dismantled South Carolina 82-59 for the school's 12th title all time. There was far more drama in the men's final as the Houston Cougars pulled defeat from the jaws of victory, blowing a 12-point second-half lead against the Florida Gators and failing to get a shot off in the game's final 19 seconds in a 65-63 loss. It would have been Houston's first-ever national championship, but Florida's defense down the stretch allowed the Gators to capture their 3rd Division I title. And that's our weekly look at news from the world of sports. Thanks for listening to The Frequency today. We had additional reporting from Peter Hirschfeld and Lexi Krupp. Today's episode was edited by Jane Lindholm, and our music is by Blue Dot Sessions. I'm Mitch Wertlieb. Talk to you tomorrow.
This is Tanya Mosley, co-host of Fresh Air. You'll see your favorite actors, directors, and comedians on late-night TV shows or YouTube. But what you get with Fresh Air is a deep dive. Spend some quality time with people like Billie Eilish, Questlove, Ariana Grande, Stephen Colbert, and so many more. We ask questions you won't hear asked anywhere else. Listen to the Fresh Air podcast from NPR and WHYY.